This fall, the Sandman, Adam Sandler, You're My Best Friend Tour.
I feel like we're very good friends now.
Casey Center, Saturday, October 4th. Get tickets now at HiVTix.com.
Chad Leistikow, Scott Dochterman, the two biggest Hawkeye and Big Ten beat writers, together on one show. GameDay Men's Health proudly presents Legends and Listeners. Best enjoyed with an easy Eddie from Big Grove Brewery. This is Legends and Listeners, exclusively on Iowa Everywhere.
Hey, Hawkeye fans, Big Ten fans, and Iowans everywhere. Chad Leistikow of the Des Moines Register, Scott Dochterman of The Athletic. Episode 110 of Legends and Listeners here on the Iowa Everywhere Network. Scott, we're in the Channel Seed studios today after a battle in the Iowa Corn Cyhawk series goes the Cyclones' way, 16-13 up at Jack Trice Stadium. We were both there. We really haven't got a chance to talk to each other much since then. So what were your thoughts about what transpired on Saturday?
I mean, I know some people really want a pound of flesh, and I think that tends to happen as soon as if Iowa ever loses a rivalry game, and definitely against the Cyclones. But I from watching it live, Chad, honestly, there were two really good teams. And they competed, and it came down to somebody making a 54-yard field goal at home. That was in a team that won 11 games last year and that was ranked. There are a lot of things, and we're going to talk about a lot of things that Iowa needs to improve upon. And because I don't think we're going to sugarcoat anything here, but I think sometimes the pendulum swings awfully hard for Iowa fans, a lot of them, where it's if they win, okay, that's fine. What's next? And then if they lose, it's fire everybody. We're done. We need to start over, and I'm just not in that realm because I watched a lot of improvement, especially on defense week over week. I did not think they would hold Iowa State to 16 points. So, they made some mistakes, no doubt about it. They got a lot of improvement to do, but I'm not ready to just throw this team out. And just because they may not hit our 10-2 mark, and I think a lot of people have taken a lot of glee at, who do you think, because we picked 10-2, Chad. I mean, who cares? Games won, games lost. I think right now it's too early in the season to flush this team away.
Well, it was a very even box score. Iowa State deserved to win. Obviously, they definitely deserved to win. Iowa played a miserable first quarter. Special teams let Iowa down. I mean, that was one of the worst special teams games I can think of from Iowa football in a big game that I can remember in a long time. I mean, it started with the opening kickoff, and unsportsmanlike conduct on the kickoff. You pin yourself back, you go 3 and out, you have a drop pass. No, you don't have a drop pass. You have a receiver running short of the sticks, and then you have a shanked punt, and then a short field for Iowa State gets 2 first downs, gets a field goal, and then I think it was the next drive. I'm pretty sure it was the next drive that Iowa had the drop pass by Gill near midfield. And then they go -6 screen, -6 bad snap, sacks, whatever they call it, a sack. So 6 plays, -1 yard, punt, another field goal for Iowa State, and then 18-yard touchdown drive, and then tip pass, 54-yard field goal. That's all Iowa allowed. If you told me all that, like 16 points, I would think Iowa won the game, and that's why people are frustrated. And I get it. If you're going to hold that Iowa State team to 16 points and you lose, I understand why people are mad because it didn't look good on offense, Scott. But we're going to get to all that as we go here. Thanks to GameDay Men's Health for headlining our show. Thanks to Big Grove Brewery. Thanks to Ackerman Plumbing. We're going to talk about them as we go on today, but we really appreciate their support so we can bring you this show. Every Thursday here on Iowa Everywhere. Scott, you put together, you kind of outlined the show today. I love it. Instead of just rehashing the game, we just did that. We're going to hit 8 topics here about the Hawkeyes and, spend a little time on each. Obviously, 8 topics. We're not going to spend a ton of time on them, but I think there are a lot of good questions in here, and I don't know what avenues we're going to go down as we talk about these topics. So first off, big picture. What did we learn about Iowa?
I think to start off with that that they're very competitive. I guess let's start there, because I had some question marks after the opening game. I thought that their defense was good in the second half, but struggled at times. I thought they really played well, on defense. And then I also think that there are some players that need to step up their game. And we're going to talk about quarterback in a few minutes. But if there was a player that I thought really was disappointing, and I'm sure he would admit it, it's probably Caden Weegan. We talked about special teams. He's the one who got the personal foul on the first play. He had allowed a punt that to bounce, then bounce at the 13 or take it at the 13, then reverse field and go all the way back to the 5. He was wearing the wrong kind of shoes and fell down on the interception. He slipped. And then he had a kickoff that he brought out to like the 15-yard line. And hey, he was an All-American last year, first team All-American. You got to play better than that. And in a game that's divided, that's so tight in the margins, you need a better performance from your All-Americans. And and in some cases, maybe it's just as simple as fair catch the ball, fair catch it in the end zone, stuff like that. I think that was. So special teams, as you mentioned, other than Drew Stevens, was not very good. It was not Iowa-like, and your All-American needed to play better. I think defensively, I learned that they're pretty good, and we'll get in deeper there. But there are some areas where I thought, like at linebacker, you've got kind of two different guys doing different things that need to get better in opposite directions. And, Carson Shire is so quick. And sometimes he just needs to play under more control. And I think Jaden Harrell understands where he needs to go. He just needs to get there quicker. And I'm saying this when they allowed 234 yards on their defense. But I also know the opponents that they're going to be playing later on in the season. And as good as Iowa State is, they're not as explosive as Oregon or Penn State or Indiana. Offensively, there's a lot to work on. And I'm not as discouraged as I was a week ago. And I hope people kind of stick with them. And the special teams thing, I just want to reiterate that will be improved. That's probably rock bottom. I don't want to just single out somebody and throw them under the bus. But I think when you're an All-American, there's an expectation there to play better. And I think he played about as poorly as he possibly could have.
Yeah, I think Kirk says that all the time. Our seniors have to play their best for us to win games, and so that's that type of example of that. I would say, taking this in another direction, Scott, what did we learn about Iowa? Now, obviously, there have been some injuries, and we're going to get to that also as we go here. But I feel like I have learned through 2 weeks that Iowa does not really have, at this point, really does not have playmakers on offense. Like, they don't have a big play guy like Caleb. I mean, Caleb Johnson, what a season he had. You're probably not going to repeat that, but they're not really anywhere close to that. I was really disappointed with the running backs the other day. I thought Terrell Washington Jr. was not good. I thought Xavier Williams looked like a freshman. Jazz Patterson, to his credit, gave them a spark off the bench. That's what he does. He runs one speed, and he's kind of like Isaiah Pacheco. You just give him the ball, and he'll just run hard, and that's great. They needed that the other day because, as I pointed out in my DVR Monday column, like the offensive line actually blocked pretty well. Like there were holes there, and the running back might make a yard. And Caleb Johnson might have been through that hole and onto the second level and making a guy miss, and suddenly a couple linebackers are chasing him. That was kind of the difference I saw. And now, you lose your best tight end. You've lost Vanderzee. I think Moulton was a real big loss. Yeah. So right now, I just don't see there's not a lot of firepower on offense. And so I feel like I've learned that. That's on the negative side. I mean, I think I'm agreeing with you with some of the other stuff that looked positive, and we're going to get to some positives as we go as well. But that stood out to me. So that's a concern. And that's, I have dialed back my expectations now. I mean, I had Iowa beating Iowa State. I had them losing Indiana. So they still could get to the break 4-1 potentially. But I feel like the ceiling is lower now than I thought it would be at this point. Injuries have been a part of that. But it feels like they've got a long way to go to even get to 8-4 at this point.
Yeah, you're right. And you look at the schedule, And they're going to be favored this week. They're going to be favored against Rutgers. But then over their final 8 games, there are some even matchups that could go either way, and there are some that they're going to have to really knuckle down and win. And maybe this is the reality of the new Big Ten and the playoff system is that everything is geared toward the playoff. If you don't make the playoff, it's like that's a line of demarcation between a great season and a not so great season, because it's like, oh, you're going to end up in the Citrus Bowl or the guaranteed whatever, I can't remember, ReliaQuest Bowl. They changed their sponsor a couple years ago. You're going to end up there, and it's like, oh yeah, Bowl. Yeah, we should just call it the Outback Bowl. But, yeah. And with this schedule and losing to Iowa State, it just adds to that level of challenges, because let's say they go chalk, they have a really good year at 9-3 and they lose to Penn State and Oregon. It's probably not going to get them in the playoffs. Right. I mean, because they're Iowa, and the name recognition does matter a little bit. If they're 9-3 and Alabama's 9-3, it's going to be hard to get past that unless they're blowing people out. So, as far as our expectations go, we were both on the high side. I know I mentioned 10-2, but I also remember saying it could go 7-5 and it wouldn't surprise me. So that's just, I'm all own 10-2 and the playoff, but I'm also going to say I wasn't just like rah shish kumbah on this either.
Yeah, right. Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see, like, if I was, let's say, I don't know, 4-3, something like that at some point, or 5-3 even. Like, if let's say they're 5-3 going into Oregon, USC, all this stuff. Yeah. Like, they're probably not going to make the playoff at that point. Like in the past, at least, you could win the Big Ten West, Mm-hmm. So, like, it's just going to be interesting now with this 12-team playoff. Like, can you, how much appetite is there for? I mean, if they go 9-3, people will be excited. I mean, they're not going to be like, throwing a parade, but like they won't get into the playoff probably. But they'll, if you're going to go beat like Oregon, USC, and Nebraska to finish, people are going to be excited, But it's just going to be interesting to see kind of how that all plays out. But there's no, that's why they play the games. I do think this program, as I wrote, as you know, Scott, it's improvement driven. It's never pretty in September, hardly ever pretty. Occasionally, they get through September, but Ferentz is 21-2 in his last 23 November games. Mm-hmm. Now this November it'd be hard to go 4-0, but they typically do ascend even when they don't have the greatest pieces. So, kind of just want to remind people of that. Like, yeah, it's week 2. Question number 2, or topic 2, Scott, this is probably the one we'll probably spend the most time on, I'm guessing. What did we learn about Mark Gronowski? I'll let you start.
I think as a competitor, he's as good as they've had as a competitor. You can tell he's out there busting his ass. He's trying. But there are some things that I think he needs to fix that I don't think he has the time or the ability to do it. And that is, I think fundamentally, he's not great. The way he sets his feet, the way he steps, he provides tells sometimes when he's in shotgun as to whether it's going to be a run or a pass. And a lot of that could be that he didn't have spring, but a lot of that could just be, it's really tough to fix somebody in a very short period of time. And I think he's got some, he did make strides. I thought that many of his passes were on target as compared to the week before. They were closer to the target than they were, and they're continuously growing chemistry. But he was not helped at all by his receivers. They had 4 drops, and then, as I mentioned before, with Weegan falling down, that was his interception. So I thought as a runner, he really did a nice job. He brought another dynamic that you think 2 years ago what they could have used with somebody just even like this instead of Deacon Hill out there. It would have been.
That's why I think they should have played Marco Linus.
Yeah, I know. Or running
might as well. Yeah, right.
Just played,
Cooper
Wildcat. Cooper, of course, Cooper, but, just play Wildcat. But I also think that, how is he going to bridge that gap, build that chemistry, complete those, slant routes, the out routes? He's going to have to step and throw. He's going to have to get the ball there. He doesn't have the strongest arm. And so I think with him, he made strides. To me, that was obvious. He's not there yet. I think that this week also needs to be Tim Lester probably should adapt his offense to Mark's strengths as opposed to playing the way he wants to play.
Yep.
And if they can get there, who knows? I mean, he is a real competitor. I'm not going to dismiss that at all. And he's tough. And if he can get into a flow, he's going to will this team to some pretty good results. But I think this has to be a bridge the gap, him and Lester, and him growing, Lester curbing, and then I think then this can be a decent passing game.
That's what Lester did last year. I mean, week 2, he recognized one of their biggest flaws was in the red zone. Didn't have a quarterback that could produce in the red zone. Changed to Brendan Sullivan in the red zone, and Iowa's red zone production went up. That's just one example. They definitely leaned on KJ. Caleb Johnson. He leaned into what Iowa could do well, and I think that is the task at hand right now. Because I said they don't really have stars on offense right now. I think if Moulton comes back, I think they have the potential to have a little bit more of a game breaker there. I think if Vanderzee comes back mid-season, something like that, maybe after the bye, I think he's got potential to be, a nice big target where Gronowski's not as afraid to make a mistake. Maybe. Sounded like he had a lot of trust in him in fall camp, just throwing balls up and having him go get them. Had a guy like that at South Dakota State. He's now at Northwestern.
Yeah, right.
So I do think that's the task this week is I think what I'm saying is I think your star on offense is Mark Gronowski. That's your best player on offense outside of your linemen. Don't you think? Would you agree?
Yes,
Yeah.
I do.
So
at this very moment, absolutely.
Yeah. So you're going to have to, you out of tight ends that are difference makers. It's a committee at best. You're probably going to have to go more 11, I guess, unless you just want to really go slam ball. But Large is about the only slam ball guy you got, right?
Yeah.
I mean, Orworth's not a blocker. Vaname's new.
Yeah.
Then you're down to Michael Burt and Thomas Meyer.
Yeah.
People would be excited to see them maybe, but, you're not going to move mountains with those guys just yet. So anyway, build around Gronowski. The guy, he is a winner. He can run. I love that he can get you a first down on 3rd and 2, 4th and 1. I didn't have as much of a problem as some people that he kicked that field goal on 4th and 2 down there. What did you think about to tie it up? I feel like 16 play, 77-yard drive, you want to get points and tie it up, and I felt like Iowa had the momentum. I actually agreed with that field goal, by the way.
I did too. I didn't have a problem with it because at that point, tie it up. You're having success. You've closed a 10-point deficit, and now you're putting it on your defense or your offense to win the game for you. It's an even game at that point. You're on the road, and when in most games, and even in this game to some extent, you are putting, you're putting them on the defensive. You're making them feel nervous, tense, pressured. And if it wasn't for number 3 over there, they probably would have felt that way. And let's face it, that scoring drive for them had some, a couple of, especially one miraculous play. I mean, let's not, make small beat out of that, 3rd down pass that went for 17 yards that got tipped in the air. And I mean, it was a heck of a play by Gabe Burkle. And we praise Iowa a lot for its recruiting. It blew that one. I mean, he's Cedar Rapids Prairie, an Iowa fan growing up, didn't even look at him. And he'd be easily the number 1 tight end in Iowa. Right. And so they blew that. And he made a heck of a play. And Cohen hit him really hard. And yet, he came down with it. Those things happen. You have the pop pass. And then for the second year in a row, a walk-on kid from Dubuque drills a 54-yarder. And this one was more in the wind. And he's, when when I was standing right there when he was asked about, did you feel as confident as you did last year? He's like, no, I didn't. And he was a little more leery because it wasn't until it really crossed that I thought I hit it. So they made the plays to win, but this was an even fist fight on the road against a team that won 11 games last year. Yes, it's a rivalry game, and I know a lot of Iowa fans don't want to look at Iowa State as even with them, but they're 8-1 in the last 9 games and 1-score games. Iowa's 1-4 in their last 5 or whatever 1-score games. So that's something there. And they made a couple of more plays, but they had the chance to win it. I thought it was the right call. And that kind of a game, take your points. Don't let a bad spot affect you, because there were a lot of bad spots.
God, there were, and both ways. I mean, it was like, a little bit strange in that way. But yeah, no, that was the Burkle catch was the lead of my post game column. Just in the fact that that's the type of play that kind of had gone Iowa's way in this series for a while. You think back to the fluky punt thing in 2019. You can think of other examples, of course, along the way. But it's one of those. The ball bounced Iowa State's way. Burkle made a great catch. Entringer said, he did a good job shielding the ball away from me. So not only was he in the right place and make a nice catch, he successfully protected the football from a really good, probably Iowa's arguably its best defensive player, one of the best it's got. And so full credit to Iowa State. I thought Rocco Becht, he didn't make a turnover. Good job by him. He was accurate with his throws. Iowa, let's talk about defense right now. What did we learn about the defense? I think we learned that Iowa's cornerbacks, hey, maybe they're not bad. I think the back 5 right now is probably the strongest unit on that side of the ball, and that's maybe where we came into the season with the biggest questions. I really liked how they played the other day. I thought the 35-yard pass, the one deep shot they hit on, was really good coverage by Deshaun Lee, and an even better throw by Rocco Becht. TJ Hall had 3 nice breakups. I thought Wampa played well. I thought, they left Lutmer on the field, Scott, against the multi-tight end sets, and, they 234 yards. The tight ends really didn't do that much. So I thought just in general, and then Entringer. So had that really nice breakup at one point too. So I thought the secondary really played well. I think that's a really good sign for the season ahead.
Agreed. The back 7, or the back 5, I should say. I knew, or I figured that the safeties would be pretty good. I thought that, Entringer, we knew he was coming along. I think with Lutmer, we could see that one. And then I think Wampa played pretty well too. TJ Hall, the expectation was he was going to become the kind of that number 1. He's playing like it. And then Deshaun Lee was always kind of that question mark, but he played well too. And they did run some dime. I think I had him down for 3 plays in dime. They played others the week before. So this is, I think they're playing like a Phil Parker coached secondary, which is a great thing, and they're starting to grow. I'm sure they've got to be confident, because when you're giving up, again, Rocco Becht the week before was 19-20. He led them to 11 victories last year. He's the reason why they won those close games. It's Rocco Becht. He's the straw that stirs the drink there. I mean, he's like Beathard, but I think a little more polished than Beathard in a lot of areas. And yet, he was 18-27, but only for 134 yards. He had that one big throw, and that was really about it. He was precise on some others, but they did their job. One touchdown, and it came after a quick change, after an interception that took the ball inside the 20. So I really like the way the secondary is coming together. I think in addition that the linebackers are playing better than I anticipated. And as I mentioned before, I think Harrell is somewhat like Jay in his build and maybe his ability. His ability to diagnose a play isn't where Jay's was. I mean, Jay had great instincts, but he also had experience to help him with those instincts. It may take a little more time for Jaden Harrell to get there, but I could tell in a lot of places, even when they kind of messed up in the run game, he was close to where he was supposed to be. It just took him a fraction of a second late to diagnose it in time to go get it. And I think Shire has all the athletic ability in the world. It's just a matter of him being able to channel it, be smart with it, and not chase ghosts and stuff like that. And I think Rexroth's really good too. I think he played well. Up front, the one, here are the two issues that I guess I have with the defense. Lack of sacks, lack of pass rush. Sometimes it's not so bad if you just keep them in the pocket. That's okay. But I think they need to continue to grow. I think week 1 to week 2 actually was growth in that area, but they still need to complete the mission. And then the other thing is lack of turnovers. That's, they're the Doughboys, man. They got to go do something like that. Now this week they'll go get 5 interceptions or something like that. But that's
make up for it.
Yeah, but they needed 1. It's just how funny the ball bounces. If that ball goes, that was bounced off Townsend and it doesn't go to Burkle, it goes to Entringer, Iowa wins. Yeah. Iowa wins the game. We're talking about something completely different.
Heck, if it falls incomplete, I like Iowa's chances there. Yeah. Yeah. It was 3rd and 4 from their own 27. I mean, Iowa probably gets the ball as long as Weechin catches it, the 30, probably the 30-yard line,
Yeah.
So.
I mean, 27, they punt it and into the wind, maybe you're getting it 35, 40-yard line. You've got 6 minutes to go. You got to feel, you got a decent chance. You're going to run the ball. You got your full playbook available to you, not in the final 2 minutes like they did after the field goal. So, but by and large, I thought the defense played really, really well. I would have liked to have seen some turnovers, and that may have changed the game. But by and large, I'm giving them a pretty high grade for the other day, and I think they're on a good trajectory at this point in the season.
Yeah, Beck started 4 for 5 for 52 yards, had that 35-yard shot early in the game, as I said. After that, Scott, he was 14 of 22 for 86 yards. Yeah, that's pretty good. Those are pretty good numbers. That's less than 4 yards per attempt the rest of the game. And 17 of those 86 came on the tip ball. So,
yeah, right.
So it was a good defensive performance for Iowa. I don't know if you haven't read my column from yesterday. Iowa's gone 4 straight games now without an interception for the first time since 2014. So they did not have a pick against Nebraska last year. Did not have a pick against Missouri. No picks the first 2 games. So they are definitely in an interception drought. They got to create those. And I asked a couple guys Tuesday, how do you do that? What's Phil Parker saying? And it's the boring answers. Like you just gotta, be in position, for these things, and read your keys, be in the right spots. But I think it also, Scott, comes down to the pass rush. You need more out of your pass rush. I like how Jonah Pace is playing. I think he's been a nice surprise. They need more out of defensive end. I thought Max Llewellyn would be a little bit more of a guy, and so far he's been pretty quiet this year. Ethan Hurkett's kind of been what he is, solid, but he's not gonna get you 8.5 sacks. Right. We had Jay Neiman on the Zoom on Wednesday, and they view Brian Allen as a starter level player. Maybe he needs to be a little bit more unleashed. Kenneth Merriweather had a good first game, probably not as good of a second game. So they need more. They need more up there. And you're right. Maybe it does have to come from blitzes. Maybe there's more comfort with that back 5, and they feel more comfortable now to blitz. Nick Jackson was a great blitzer. Yeah. I don't know who their best blitzer would be. Maybe Shire. Don't know yet. Yeah. Not sure. Don't know who their best blitzer is. So that's part of it too. But so I feel like encouraging about the defense. Not what we learned about the defense, Scott. I think we learned this is a Phil Parker defense. So that's encouraging because we thought maybe it would take a step back with all those lost guys, but it looks pretty good. So
right.
I don't know. What are the positives? What's the most this was your 4th topic. So I know we could, delve into ground we've already covered potentially, but what are the positives that can be taken away from Saturday? We'll get into the negatives. Don't you guys worry.
The positives of Saturday.
Yeah.
Let's Well, I mean, we just discussed the defense. I think that's something that makes sense. The way that they performed in a hostile environment against a really good team that was sizzling the last couple of games. I mean, and you go back to the bowl game. I mean, they outscored Miami, and they didn't have Jaden Higgins, and in that game he sat out, and yet they were able to really perform at a high level. And I think so defensively, you say, all right, this team is capable of competing with other Big Ten teams. Now, there's some teams that have, they're a little more explosive, that they're going to, I fear their defensive line going against Oregon and Penn State's offensive lines right now, and their quarterbacks. I mean, there's some things there that can really challenge them. They're going to have to take that another step or two higher, but which is what they should do anyway. But I also think offensively, the offensive line's playing pretty well. I mean, that last series there where they gave up a couple sacks. I mean, but they didn't have Dunker wasn't on the field. That's also a moment where that they're going to pass, and Iowa hasn't proven it can pass yet. And when the other team knows it, that they're not going to be able to run, then they can come right at them. And I think that was a negative, but I do like their offensive line, though. Overall, I think they're still blocking really well. There was a tough assignment inside for Logan Jones. Dominic Orange is, he's going to be playing on a lot of Sundays. Yeah. He's a great player. But I thought he held his own. I mean, Orange played a great game. I mean, he was defensive lineman of the week for a reason. Wow. But I also think that Logan Jones played pretty well, all things considered. And, and I think, again, some of the holes were there in the running game.
Well, speaking of playing at a high level, Scott, GameDay Men's Health can get you playing at a high level in every aspect of your life. Their testosterone replacement therapy is kind of the signature thing we talk about here on Legends and Listeners, because it's really impacted our lives in a positive way. I mentioned I'm doing the half marathon next week. Honestly, like on Wednesday, I probably had the best run I've had since high school.
Wow.
I'm getting ready. The half marathon is next Sunday, so it's after I get back from Rutgers. But GameDay Health has got me ready. I asked today if I could get maybe a double shot next week. They're considering it. No, I'm just kidding. But GameDay Men's Health can help you with all your needs. Help your performance on and off the court, help your mood, just help every part of your, this stuff really does work, guys. I wouldn't be saying it. I'm not just saying it. Okay. Hopefully you guys understand that by now. GameDay Men's Health, you can get a free, no obligation consultation at GameDayMen'sHealth.com or visit one of their locations in Ankeny, North Liberty, or West Des Moines, where I go. It's been great. We love having their partnership, and appreciate all you. I mean, every time I go in, like on Wednesday when I went in, it was like packed. I had to actually wait. Actually, had to wait like a few minutes to get my shot, and so it's great to see. Though I love it. It makes me smile to see so many guys around there.
Yeah, same here. It was funny the other day, and I only live a couple blocks away, so half the time I do drive there, it's just like, crap, it's like 3 minutes before I better go and drive. And I followed a guy right into the parking lot who beat me in there, and I got, so I had to wait a couple minutes. So that was part of me was agitated. Yeah, part of me was agitated, but part of me is like, hey, that's pretty cool that this is the case. And it's when I go in, it's usually pretty packed in North Liberty, and it's a good thing. And the people there take care of you. Obviously, I feel great and look a lot better, I think, even with this advancing age. But and I hope any of you guys that saw me at Big Grove or over at Buffalo Wild Wings on Friday.
Yeah, man.
So
how was that? You were Mr. Iowa everywhere on Friday, buddy.
I know, it was fun. It was the first time it was funny. Hassel and I were talking. That was the first time in 10 years I'd seen Hassel. Yeah. Last time was the snow game against Purdue. Right. I'm 15, and then going to Buffalo Wild Wings was a good time too. So it was just I guess one thing about Big Grove is, Chad, they have their Easy Eddie, It's a great place to go for an easy Eddie and I think that's what Hassel was drinking. But
it was. I listened to you guys' show on my way to Ames, so I'm all schooled on what you guys talked about up there.
Yeah, and then the other people got the Citrus Surfer and I think. I want to say Williams got the neighborhood beer, but of course I had to go my favorite, which is 1939, and it's a heavier one, and it's an ale, it's an amber ale, and I'm almost like, oh, I don't know if I should be doing this while I'm talking, but I couldn't resist. It's too good. So and the Des Moines location downtown. First time I'd been there. It's an amazing area. Awesome. The outdoor patio. We've been to the one in Iowa City. We did our show with Ben McCollum, and I've been there several times. Love it there too. The OG up the road in Solon, where you might run into Ben McCollum eating his dinner, and then Cedar Rapids, just over down by the Cedar River. It's a pretty cool spot. It's a couple miles from Czech Village, and so all four are definitely worth your time. In fact, the other day on Monday night I was in Cedar Rapids and I walked past the Big Grove when I was peeking at the Bears game on the first drive when Caleb Williams looked pretty good. So I should have just stayed there all night based on the performance.
Yeah,
there.
You should have.
Yeah.
Well, go ahead.
Yeah, there's a lot of great food there, but I'll tell you what, you can't beat the 1939 for what I like.
Well, we appreciate Big Grove jumping aboard on Legends and Listeners. They're very enthusiastically supporting us, and we appreciate that very much. Let's get. I will talk about the positives that I saw from the game. I still. Yeah, the line, the offensive line is going to be fine. I was disappointed in the running game overall, but I put that more on the running backs. There were some. I actually thought Tim Lester called some good runs, and I think those runs were there. So I think they got to figure out running back position, Scott. And so as we get into the negatives, what are the negatives that? It's. I think this is a week you got to find some guys. You got to find. You need to search. You need to sift through some of those guys deeper in the depth chart. The Nathan McNeils, the KJ Parkers, guys with some actual ability. Because I think the negatives for me are you've got Jacob Gill is your leading receiver again, and the next highest receiver has 15 yards for the season, and we know that. They pulled the reins back on passing against Albany. We know that.
Yeah.
But Sam Phillips has one catch for 15 yards. Seth Anderson has 3 catches for 14 yards. Caden Weechin has a catch for 2. These are your seniors. Come on. Ferentz was talking Tuesday. He doesn't call guys out really much, but he wasn't real happy with the receivers, I don't think, against Iowa State. That was a problem. The first drive of the game, Jacob Gill runs it's 3rd and 5, and he runs a 4-yard route. Right. That's not the design. Yeah. There's no way that was the design. Now, credit to Iowa State for throwing him off his route potentially. But come on, get to the sticks. And if you're not going to get to the sticks, make the catch and lunge forward or something.
Right.
I know it wasn't a perfect throw, but still, I mean, these are the things you got to do. You got to make these plays. These are negatives. The drops. They're just not helping Gronowski out, and I find myself coming to Gronowski's defense here a little bit, even though his numbers are pathetic, because I feel like he's the one kind of doing his best here, and I don't know if the rest of the guys are. They're definitely not playing their best, so that's a negative for me. So that's what I'm saying. This week against UMass, 35.5-point favorite, Scott. I'm turning the negative into a positive here. I'm saying you got to give these other guys some chances. Dayton Howard, guy's 6'5". Throw him some jump balls. Make him your Vanderzee until Vanderzee gets back. He looked good on Kids Day. It was Kids Day, right? Or was it spring game? It was one of the two.
Dayton Howard was great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, what the heck? Yeah. He's healthy.
And
looks good in warm-ups. KJ Parker, we've heard great things. I mean, I don't understand what John Budmeier's doing there, or if hopefully they're shaking it up a little this week, or else those guys got a kick in the seat because they got to play better.
You're absolutely right, and I think this is, 2 of the drops were critical. because they were drive killers. And, one ultimately led to a field goal. So I guess it's not the worst thing in the world, but that was the slant. At that point in the game, you just converted a first down. I think it was the first one they converted all game. And it was right at the end of the first quarter. And then you have a 15-yard slant, and you drop it. As you mentioned, Chad, they're rounding off routes. They're not getting enough depth. And what it is it's route anxiety. It's instead of, it's like, I need to hurry and cut corners to get where I need to go. No, you need to run the route exactly the way it's designed. And that means if it's 3rd and 4, you got to run at 5. Or if it's not at 5, you've got to make sure you find a way to get it to 5. And now on the flip side, Mark Gronowski has to be better fundamentally and use the power in his, he's 235 pounds. He's got real strong legs. He doesn't throw with them though. He throws flat-footed, and it's something he could have gotten away with at South Dakota State, but you cannot do that in the highest level of college football. And he needs to be, snap throw, and especially, and this is where I think he has to get better, and Lester has to devise a game plan that allows his best player or his quarterback, puts him in the best possibility to succeed, and that is, if he's on the far hash mark and you're throwing a 4-yard out to the, which is basically a 35-yard pass on a rope, and it's very scary because if you hang it, it can get taken the other way. Then if your guy can't do it with a lot of success, then you better scrap it. You better find a different way to do things. So, that's what I think this week has to be in a lot of cases, is working on both of those things. So the negative to me is the passing game needs a lot of work. And the easy thing to say as well was because Gronowski wasn't there in the spring, he wasn't able to throw. And that's true, but they do need to, but you got to, excuse time's over as well. And then, Chad, I don't know if this is where we want to talk about injuries.
Well, let me ask you a question before we talk injuries, because I've been wrestling this with this in my head, because we saw the spring game. I know Gronowski wasn't there. Spring game, passing game looked really good. The receivers looked good. Kids Day, passing game looked pretty good. Like there were some deep shot connections. Gronowski hit Parker deep. He hit Vanderzee deep. He hit Anderson deep. I remember those 3 specifically. Like what? And that's against Iowa's defense, first team defense. So what changed? Why aren't they connecting now? Like it's not like we made up those things that the receivers were looking good. Kirk's saying that the receivers are like the offensive line last year. He sees that come, like everyone said and saw that these guys were doing it. So why aren't they doing it? I'm struggling with that. Is it just they're getting in the games and panicking? I mean, it's a little bit. It doesn't make sense to me because we've seen them do it. We've heard them talk about they're doing it, and they're not doing it.
I think there's 2 things. One is you almost have to throw the first week out because Mark's first quarter was a disaster. I mean, he just was nowhere near these guys. He was behind them. And he's still not necessarily on target. I mean, sometimes he's not hitting them where they need to get the ball and then be able to turn and make plays. So that's part of it. But I would also say, and you got to give credit to Iowa State. This is a good defense. They were number 1 in the country last year in pass defense. They play a 3 deep. It's not even like a cover 2 shell. It's a true 3 deep. And, with a middle safety. And their design is to really keep everything in front of you. And then they do such a good job of attacking the receiver that it's kind of like watching it. I mean, it's a completely different scheme, but it's like watching Iowa's better secondaries. That's the way they played. So you got to respect the opponent the other day. That said, they got open a few times, and Mark didn't get them either. And I think in some cases they were like the 3rd read. He didn't get to his 3rd read, and he, whether he panicked or he was a little slow in his delivery or deliberation. Everything needs to ramp up. Everything needs to get quicker. And this is the week to do it. You got Rutgers. and then after that, the training wheels are off on the schedule. So I think they are. I think they're progressing, but I also look at the receivers as they do need they need to go behind the woodshed this last week.
Whoa, yeah,
not figured.
Jeez, Scott.
I mean, they need they needed to be snapped at. Okay, they needed a good scolding and sent to the corner. They did not play well, and they've got to play better than that. They absolutely have to, and I think they will. I think they'll respond. But
Sure.
What does that mean in the Big Ten, Chad? Give me, I don't know.
Yeah, well, let's talk. We're going to finish with some short and long term implications of this loss, but let's delve into the injuries now, and then maybe we'll talk about some plumbing after that.
Yeah.
But we can flush it, right? We can flush that.
Right.
But the key injuries, obviously, as you guys know, Moulton's out again this week, Vanderzee's out again this week, and then honestly, a really big injury, Scott. It reminds me of the Luke Lachey injury of 23 when he goes out on it was the first quarter of week 3 against Western Michigan. Lost to your best tight end for the season. Iowa loses Addison Ostrenga on the 6th play of the Cy-Hawk game. So that's your number 1 tight end, the most versatile tight end you got, your best tight end, potential NFL tight end. That the timing of that also hurts. To lose a guy, I feel like the timing of now the Moulton thing didn't matter ultimately because it was Albany, but the timing of losing Vanderzee like after you're done with your first week of practice, the Wednesday your Wednesday practice is done, you lose Vanderzee, you don't have any more practices. Now the season starts. You've had them all fall camp, and now you lose Ostrenga. I'm sure there was a game plan, including Ostrenga, that because he's a good football player. In the 6th play, and then the rest of the game you got Hayden Large and DJ Voname as your tight ends, basically. So, how serious are the injuries, Scott? Dunker's back at least. That's good.
Yeah, Dunker and Stevens was a little dinged up too, but they're both okay. They're both practiced. They're ready to go. But I mean, you're looking at the 3, to me, best playmakers of those positions. Your 3 skill positions on offense, outside of quarterback. And I think Kamari Moulton was a significant loss because I think he, to me, had taken that step as being the best running back on the team. And he would have been the guy that could have gotten through some of those holes. He proved it before, and he could have done it the other day. That was a big loss because, as you said, and I agree, with Xavier Williams kind of played like a freshman, I don't know, it was timid. It just didn't come together for him. Whereas TJ Washington, that was probably not the game for him to be the starting running back and try to pound it between the tackles. He's probably better as the old-fashioned wing back and a wing T or something, just taking the ball more on the edge and around. And Jazz Patterson, sledgehammer, man. He does exactly what you asked him to do. He runs the ball really, really hard. And I think that was the right move to go to him and kind of let him be your guy. And I think he played just perfectly for what he's capable of doing. But I think when you're talking about collectively, your best threat and as a pass catcher and Reese Vanderzee, he's got tight end size. They don't have anybody like that they played anyway, other than Dayton Howard. You don't have your best tight end. That's a critical position in Iowa football. We know that. Tight end.
Yeah. What did they do? I mean, Ortworth is not, he admitted he's not a good run blocker. Yeah. He said that yesterday or Tuesday. Large is mostly a blocker. Hayden Large. He's basically a fullback.
Yeah.
And then DJ Voname is just completely new, but they like him a lot. I mean, what do you do? Because each guy that you put out there, it's kind of a tell, right?
Well, it is. I think Voname could be a guy that
I think develops, so too. Like I have no idea, but parents praised his blocking. He's a redshirt freshman from Carroll Kemper, former quarterback. I'm super intrigued by this guy, number 81.
Mm-hmm.
He's gotten more snaps, Scott, than Ortworth has. This season. So that tells me that he's got the trust of these guys. I think we're going to see 81 out there.
I do too, because he's he's more consistent in his areas, and I think that's important. And it comes from pedigree. I think his mom's from Iowa City or Solon. Played sports in high school, and at this point, you've got to find your most consistent player out there. Now, it wouldn't surprise me at all if him or heck, Bert, and even go down to Thomas Meyer. Sam Laporta had to play as a true freshman.
Yeah, he played great in the Holiday Bowl. Remember that?
Yeah, and his first big play was against Northwestern on the road, and so these guys, they've had some history of just throwing guys out there when they needed to. Even in the year when Fant was a true freshman, he's out there. He got a touchdown pass. He had Kittle, but Kittle got hurt, and they're out with Nate Weeding out there. Yeah. So they've had to make do, and they know what to do with that. I think they'll be. It just Ostranga to me was I think he was poised to have a decent season, and now it's unfortunate. Now, I'm sure he'll redshirt. This will be his redshirt year. So there's some
so he can
positive there. Yeah, but Achilles injury is not a great injury either. But I don't know. What do you think? You think Vonneman is the guy?
Well, I don't know, but I mean, I think that I think that Ferentz has praised Hayden Large quite a bit. So honestly, I think he's probably your best inline guy, because you need an inline guy. What was funny was when I rewatched, I didn't realize this live, but when I rewatched the game, rewatching some of these losses are tough sometimes, but you do it anyway. It's part of the job. Gronowski's last pass, that deep fourth and whatever it was, that was to Hayden Large. On the side. I was like, oh my God. Really? You're throwing the game's on the line. You're throwing like a 25-yard out to Hayden Large. Anyway, I know it was desperation, but anyway. But anyway, do they go? What do you? I mean, they got to go more 11 now, right? Which is counter to what we talked about with the receivers. They're just gonna. I don't know. Like it's gonna be. What do they do on offense? With this tight end situation.
Well, you're gonna have to take a leap of faith. There's just no doubt about it. I mean, they are gonna have to at times go 12 personnel, because that's the way that they're going to have to win, because Hayden Large is a blocker, and you've got to have faith that Zach Ortworth can take strides. He looked like he was making strides before. He had a critical drop the other day. Now it's like, hey, we need you. You have to play. And so you better play. And I think that's, but you're right in that I was charting the formations and for Iowa the other day, and let me see here what I had. Let's see, I had 25 and 12, 39 and 11, and then I had a 13, which was on a short yardage situation. So, they're still going to run 12, but I do think that they're going to have to lean on 11 as well, 3 wide receivers, because that's what your personnel dictates. But the 11 are going to have to work out too. They're going to have to get better. So this is kind of crazy scenarios.
Yeah, they're kind of back to where they were last year in some ways, where Gill's your most reliable guy, even though he had 2 drops. Mm-hmm. Maybe he's going to play a little bit more of that. He's been playing more slot, so he's got a lot fewer snaps so far than Phillips and Anderson. So Phillips and Anderson are going to either have to produce, or I'd say move on to someone else. But flush them, right, Scott?
I think flush them, and moving on. I think we need to.
That was my bad segue. Sorry, I'm not actually recommending to flush those guys, just for the record. Go ahead.
Speaking of flushing, though, I would say Ackerman Plumbing has been it's a good friend here to us at Iowa Everywhere and Legends and Listeners. And I've used them before in the past with some sump pump issues, which I had set on a high water table, and I definitely. Ackerman Plumbing was my first call, and now that they're partnering with us, I couldn't be happier. And so it's time to discover for yourself how the plumbing industry can be when you choose a customer-first, independently owned and operated business like Ackerman Plumbing. Ackerman Plumbing services the Iowa City area, including North Liberty and Coralville. And we're thankful for their support here on Iowa Everywhere's Legends and Listeners in Instant Iowa. Ackerman is only in the residential plumbing business, so your calls matter and will always be answered in a timely manner. Whether it's for plumbing emergency, routine service and maintenance, equipment replacement, or upgrades like tankless water heaters and water filtration systems, call Ackerman. we love a business that's growing too. And Ackerman is looking for another service tech to join their team. If that is you or you know someone, reach out to Ackerman Plumbing. Shout out to the best team at Ackerman: Corey, Stacy, Aaron, Nathan, and all the rest. So visit ackerman-plumbing.com for 5-star residential plumbing services in the Iowa City area.
And I know my mom and dad listen to us every week, Scott. So, mom and dad, you got to look into Ackerman next time you got an issue. All right. They live in Iowa City, as you guys probably know.
Yeah.
That's where I grew up. So let's combine these last two. We're kind of running a little low end time, but short and long term implications of this Cyhawk loss. Looking forward, Scott. What are you feeling right now about the Iowa Hawkeyes 2025?
I think if you put the blinders on, Chad, and focus only on the day-to-day, which nobody does it better than Kirk Ferentz, which is why he's going to set the Big Ten wins record this weekend. Nobody that I've ever been around handles adversity better and channels that and moves forward. And I think that's how they have to approach this. Get better each and every day. All the boring cliches matter here. You're not playing Oregon this week. You're playing UMass. Worry about UMass. Worry about practice. Getting, just the 1% better each day, happy blank, but, you still, it matters here. And I think that's important. But I also think that when you look at the big picture, and we are all doing that, Chad, it's a tough path. They needed to beat Iowa State. It was really an important game for them because of how difficult their Big Ten schedule is. They're not playing Purdue and Northwestern and Maryland, the 3 worst teams in the league this year. They're playing Oregon, who's ranked 4th, Penn State, who's ranked 2nd. You're playing Indiana. You're already, they're in the, I don't know what they are now, 21 or 22 or something. But you have a really competitive schedule. USC looks really good right now. The way Aiden Childs played against Boston College, he's 5 total touchdowns and a double overtime win. You look at all that is fairly daunting, which is why focus on the task at hand. You're not playing them all at once. You're playing them once a week.
Yeah.
And so that's, to me, they still got a chance to have a good season. But you just can't take it in the aggregate right now, the way we've talked about it all the way up until last week.
I think the schedule sets up nicely for Iowa to do something here. It's not like they're just think about it. UMass is obviously by far the easiest game on the schedule the rest of the way.
Yeah.
And I would say the second easiest, and it's not easy, okay, so that's not the right word. But the next most winnable is probably at Rutgers. I would say. Just my opinion, and that's nothing against Rutgers. It's just that the rest of the schedule is really tough. And that's a typical, Iowa's really owned Rutgers since they joined the Big Ten. They've allowed, it's like crazy how few points they've allowed. I think it's 17 in 4 meetings against Rutgers. So that if you can win those, and they'll win this week. If you can beat Rutgers, you're 3-1, and you got Indiana coming to town. You've hopefully improved on some things. You've found what you do best. Maybe you've got Moulton back by then. I think there's probably a chance for that. I don't know, but he wasn't in a sling this last weekend at the game, so it's a good sign. And then you get a bye. So if you can beat Indiana. I don't know how good Indiana is yet, but they might be ranked. You might break that 0-for-10 rank streak. Mm-hmm. If you could somehow, some way go into that bye week 4-1, you come out of it, and you got all your attention on the team you beat last year 42-10. It's a rivalry game. It's a trophy game. You got 2 weeks to set up for it. I know it's a lot of steps ahead here, but if you do take things one at a time and you get the progression that Ferentz teams typically get, there's a world where I could see it's not a big stretch to say Iowa's going to be 5-1 going into that Penn State game.
Yeah, I think it's fair. I think it's possible, but they have to do, first of all, the injuries.
They got to improve. They got to improve, and they got to figure things out.
No question. And I'll use this as a kind of a comparison, Chad, that the awful tough stretch that Lucy Olson went in January is not that dissimilar to what Mark Gronowski's going through. It means, obviously basketball, you got a lot of games, but that 6-game slide, she wasn't playing well. He hasn't played well to start the season, but then it just clicked. She was allowed in on that USC game to just be herself, and she took off and played tremendous basketball. And I thought that was really good to see. And I think in some ways it's not, it's not hyperbolic to think that Mark Gronowski can totally just, it clicks. He gets in rhythm in a passing game. He feels the comfort. He feels good about himself. The confidence flows. His receivers, after getting taken behind the woodshed this week, really, kind of rise to the occasion. Caden Weegan takes whatever happened, early last week and plays better, and the defense plays well. They feel good about themselves. They get their slump buster out of the way. Then they go and play Rutgers the way they usually do. Feel good about themselves moving forward into a kind of a showdown. So I think it's all possible, but it's easy to say. It's hard to do, and they're going to have to do it. And that's why they get paid a lot of money, players and coaches now.
I loved your Lucy Olson analogy there. That was really good because she, that was what they needed. Mm-hmm. Boom. That Oregon game out there that was the low point for Lucy Olson. Got benched in the fourth quarter. They lost the game by 1. He didn't get benched against Iowa State, but not dissimilar to a disappointing loss that you feel like you should have won or could have won. Mm-hmm. Next game at Washington. Let's say this is Iowa at Rutgers. Go on the road. She was 8 for 8 from the field. Mm-hmm. Then you come home. USC, lights are on you. Then you come home here for football. Indiana, spotlight's going to be big for that one, no matter what Indiana's at. Hey, go play great. Mm-hmm. Get everyone behind you again. Iowa women won, 8 of the last 12? And the second half of their schedule was much tougher than the first half of the Big Ten schedule.
Right.
They did it, and that's because their leader was the player that we thought she was going to be. So I like that analogy. I think that's a positive way to end the show, Scott. Well done. Well done.
Yeah. After kind of feeling like it was all a downer, after losing a 3-point game on the road to a ranked team that won 11 games last year, I think in this case you can see the pattern emerge, and we can't forget there's a reason why Kirk Ferentz is going to pass Woody Hayes this week. Mm-hmm. And it's because when he faces adversity, the team always responds, and I think they're on that trajectory. But anyway,
schedule's so hard. I know,
right?
But, yeah.
But going to Wisconsin is like going to the Minnesota game for Iowa women, or Nebraska for Iowa women.
Yeah.
So you go to a rival. How do you play? You perform well. Okay, take the next step. So
absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then remember that. God, not to take this too far. But remember UCLA came to town and they almost beat them. They almost beat them, That could be like the Penn State or the Oregon, you know what I mean? Like you're in that game at the end. So I don't know.
One of them
Hopefully
has to
there's
be
some
USC.
What's that?
One of them has to be the USC game.
The Indiana. No, I'm saying Indiana's the USC game. Yeah, when the ranked
I'd rather attach that one to Penn State.
There you go. Okay, sure. All right. That'll be a future column for one of us.
Yeah,
all right,
there you go.
You get all the credit on this one. Anyway, all right. Thanks for joining us, folks. Every week, every Thursday, legends and listeners, Iowa everywhere. Channel Seed Studios. Chad Leistikow, Scott Dochterman. Talk to you next week.